Well, actually, I really don't know from where to begin, but all the same, I was a young captain with 2nd Battalion of the Parachute Regiment when we got orders to move by air to South Korea to supplement the effort of Custodian Force India, which consisted of 5 regular battalions with the brigade headquarters. Perhaps Custodian Force was part of Neutral Nations Repatriation Commission with its headquarters at Pyongyang. And they ran short of, because our job was essentially to repatriate the prisoners of war. No decision had been taken how to dispose of the prisoners of war. So the brigade went there by sea, but having reached there, they realized that the force was not adequate to look after or manage the prisoner of war camps. So my battalion, which was the parachute battalion, was moved. And the globe masters were provided by America. I had never seen a globe master because the biggest aircraft we had was a Dakota with a capacity of 20 and a Fairchild Packet, which was the World War II vintage aircraft with a capacity of about 30 to 40. And this globe master could carry in 2 tiers about 130 troops, fully with their kit. So it was a great experience, really. We stopped at Clark Air Base in Philippines early in the morning. Now it was an eye-opener. It was about, I think, 3 or 4 a.m. and the troops were already lining up to have their breakfast. And you see, the Indians hide, by and large, in that period, at that stage of our development, was hardly 5 feet 7 inch, 5 feet 6 inch, and there we saw Afro-Americans lining up, and it was a tremendous experience. And the amount that they could eat for breakfast, it was really, from there we were taken to Japan. And I think it was Tachikawa or some airport, and then we were transferred to a battleship which took us to the Incheon airport. And there Mr. Syngman Rhee was the president of South Korea. He thought that Indians were pro-communist. Although India was the chairman of Neutral Nations Repatriation Commission, which consisted of India as chairman, and we had a very famous general officer, General Timaya, who later on also served in the United Nations. Besides India, there was Poles and Czechoslovakian representing the communists, and I think, if I recollect, Norway or Sweden were the other part of this force, of this headquarters. And Custodian Force India under a general officer consisting of 5 battalions, I mentioned earlier. So Sigmund Rhee refused to let us go by train from Incheon or go through South Korea to the demilitarized zone where we were destined, our custodian force was placed. Again, it was a great experience for me as a young officer. Helicopters were unknown in India in those days, but seeing helicopters from the ship, like you see, it was an experience again. The helicopters were small, just they could take about 4 or 5 along with their complete, as we call, kit for the operational kit and what goes with it. And we were put in the demilitarized zone. And we landed there. I was then commanding a rifle company, which generally consists about 80 men. And it was about 5 in the evening, and it was getting a bit dark when I was given orders to relieve another company and take over straight away the prisoner of war camp. There was no head count. I was just told that about 500 prisoners of war were in that camp. There were about 5 or 6 camps there. And lo and behold, middle of the night, and it was a sub-zero kind of temperature. We were not equipped really for the Korean climate. We were not equipped. There was a breakout, and our sentries on the periphery were firing to stop the exodus. It was a nightmare. We were in our under sort of, sleeping, and suddenly this commotion was taking place. And perhaps they had timed it also. They knew, they were very seasoned, those who have fought the war, but some of them were hardcore communists who never wanted anybody to either go to South Korea or to any Western countries. And they were creating terror in the camp. So anyway, to continue with this breakout, a lot of them got through. They were very keen to go to South Korea or to South or to Europe or anywhere else. But it was a major setback for me that this happened when I was in command of the camp. That's a different story. I had to face a bit of disciplinary action for that. Then we were taken, you see, I appreciated the amount of hard work put by the engineers of the American Army to prepare a camp for about 800 soldiers and officers, and be centrally heated. that was itself was quite an experience that they were able to set up. And it was just the normal canvas sheets and with some kind of heating arrangement in the center where perhaps diesel was being burnt to keep the warm. And also you had the wooden floors and things like that. But one thing was that our senior commanders never wanted us to take on the United Nations or American dress. They wanted us to remain. They permitted the troops to wear those to be comfortable, but to officers, whatever we were entitled to and what we had taken, which was certainly wasn't adequate, but to set an example that the leaders themselves were being given Indian rations, whereas the troops were allowed to have rations with the other United Nations troops were. Initially, we felt little because we were uncomfortable. The clothing wasn't warm enough. Neither was the food. It took us hours by our pressure cookers to cook the dal and the cereal and all that. Whereas the troops were being fed the Californian oranges and the lamb and the, all that frozen lamb and niceties. Anyway, gradually we were able to convince, or the senior themselves saw, that it is not practical. It's all right to set an example, but an example should also be related to the actualities on the ground and the situation. Now we had also a hospital was also there to cater for. Let me concentrate first on the behavior of the core communist leaders. They had created cells in the compound, deep cells. One, it gave you protection against the climate, and second was that they used to torture those perhaps who were very keen to break away and torture them so badly that they will kill you. And in the morning, what you saw was 2-3 bodies being put on the gate of the, which was a barbed wire kind of gate. It was a very tough situation. And you could do nothing. We could do nothing against the torture that was going on in the camps. Once we settled down, then I'm relating to what my job was. I was given the job of presenting prisoner of war from my camp to the team of NNRC, Neutral Nations Repatriation Commission team. And each prisoner of war was exposed to them in a tent, something like that, bigger tent. And there, each ambassador or part of that team will bring messages, and those recorded messages but played requesting these fellows to come back to their own motherland, go back to North Korea, to China, or wherever. But there was no force involved in this whole exercise. But as luck would, bad luck for me, and these prisoners used to be stripped so that they carry no weapons or no sharp to harm the representative of the NNRC. And we used to strip them. And as I said, my bad luck again. One of the prisoners had kept a blade somehow, I don't know where. And he slashed one of the faces of one of the... There was a commotion.
Wait, this is very important.
He had hidden a blade, a shaving blade somehow, which we didn't notice. And he slashed the faces of one of the members of the Newton Nation Repatriation Commission's team member. Anyway, he was overpowered, and of course I had to face the music later on through my normal army channels. But the officer who was conducting an inquiry into the whole thing was very considerate that it wasn't something intentional. There was no motivation on my part to be lax, and therefore I was honorably, and it was quite a bit of tension so far as I, as a young officer, I had then about 6 years service and I was about 26 years old then. And these were but the life generally was made reasonably comfortable. Later on, they permitted us to have the Arca codes and all those facilities which the other United Nations troops were having. But what, as a young officer, it was an eye-opener, and you match yourself professionally and otherwise in smartness, in alertness, in efficiency. I thought, I am as good or even better in a sense than officers from some of the other countries. So it built a lot of confidence in me as an individual, and perhaps that's the reason that I rose to be the Vice Chief of the Army later on in life.
Wow, Vice Chief of the Army?
Right. So, we used to have, once I was taken off from that and I was made adjutant of the battalion, that means I was not involved in looking after the prisoner of war, but managing the affairs of the unit. We had a comfortable stay there. Our officers' mess was there. All the facilities were given. Even movies were shown. And we used to naturally sit in a huge transport carrier, and which was warm enough to view the. I remember seeing a movie of Nat King Cole was the great singer of those days, and the song I remember was "What a Beautiful World."
Oh.
What a beautiful world! It was a great song of those days. Then we celebrated our festivals, Diwali and all that, and showed to the rest of the contingent of the nuclear, the others. Perhaps it must have been explained to you that we were 5 battalions. That means a brigade, nearly with services, about 5,000 troops. Indian troops were there, which is quite a contribution, though not in actual war, but later on.
For how many years? For how many years? How long?
Oh yes, it wasn't 1953-54. That means we came back about 10 months. 10 months.
In 10 months, there were 5,000 of you? There were 5,000 of you? 5,000?
Yes.
For 10 months?
10 months. Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
Because before the war,
Huh.
the unit was very small. It was less than 400.
Ambulance. It was a
Yes.
field ambulance, which was part of the. But this was. I'll show you the plate I have.
Later, we can do that.
Later, we have a plate for that. Then also we got a chance to visit the NNRC headquarters, which was at Pyongyang, North Korea, and now North Korea. And there was again a world of difference between the attitudes, the reading of the situation. It was entirely of a aggressive. You could see there the aggressiveness on the part of the Chinese was still there too, but we were dealing with only prisoner of war.
How long did that take, that process? So the armistice is signed, okay? And then you start negotiating, right? Not negotiating. The negotiation was already done.
You see, United Nations was part of the fighting. So this was I think under Geneva Convention or a neutral nations repatriation commission. Repatriation, which is a self-explanatory, was to repatriate or give an opportunity to the prisoner of war where they want to go. But again, it may be premature. Unfortunately, we were not able to achieve our task. No final decision was taken, and we returned the prisoner of war back to the neutral nations, and we came back without achieving the aim.
And it took 10 months.
Yeah, just in 10 months.
So, what happened to the person that split the person, the POW?
I wouldn't know, because that decision was taken by the neutral nations, the Repatriation Commission.
Was he Chinese or North Korean?
Again, I wouldn't know. I wouldn't know, because there was not written that they are North Korean or they are Chinese or whatever.
Because I know POW is still a very. That's why the war lasted 3 years. I heard that after 1 year, by 1951, the battle was already kind of decided. It was all within along the 30th parallel.
Yeah.
And it was just up and down and up and down, up and down, not, different parts. But the reason why it dragged was because of the POW issue. And it was hard to come to.
You would be surprised that I think 2 came to India. And
Who did?
and
POWs?
and they even now they are part of our association and they are businessmen here in Delhi.
Wait. What do you mean the 2 are Koreans? North Koreans?
South Koreans.
South, oh, okay, after the war.
South
After the
Korean
war.
prisoner, they came to India. They opted for India. They somehow.
They were captured by the enemy,
Yes,
and then when they were repatriated, they said they want to go to India.
yes.
Interesting. So they are.
Actually, this fellow, the defense attaché, should be able to tell you exact name of this person. He was a businessman.
Wow.
Yes.
Well, I guess.
But I don't think he has. I don't know. But we keep on meeting him. We have our get-togethers, association get-togethers, and he attends that. Whether he has given up his citizenship, that I am not aware. Whether he is.
So the association has members of both the parachute, the ambulance, and your unit, right?
Not mine only. Custodian Force India was the executive branch of the Neutral Nations Repatriation Commission.
And that was 5,000.
That was 5,000 troops with a field hospital, big hospital, not only an ambulance, field ambulance, but a big hospital with all facilities. I think they could maintain the bed strength was about 50 or so. Big hospital.
So altogether, less than 6,000 Indians went to Korea. And luckily, only 1 died. Luckily. How did he die? What kind of accident? How did he die?
How did he die?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know
The one
actual.
Indian.
But again, while we were there, I mentioned about their aggressiveness. They even the General Thorat, he was a general officer of the Indian Army who was the head of the custodian force. They were maltreating some prisoners, so he went in to see for himself. And there, this aggressive lot, must be North Koreans or Chinese, they made him captain, a general officer, and then a big operation was, more force was brought, and he himself was a seasoned World War II veteran. So he was able to convince them that they cannot keep holding on to him. He will be free. So it is better that they do it in a peaceful manner rather than bloodshed. And he was able to convince to them because the troops have then, we were part of that, to take action if something goes wrong. So these kind of situations were, then we had on a Diwali day, I remember, I led the ceremonial parade of the normal, and we put up Malkham. I wonder if you may not have heard. Malkham is a Maratha. How long you been in India?
2 days? 3 days?
Malkham is an exercise. It's to strengthen your muscles and things like that. A greasy pole, taller than this, about 15 feet, which you climb. A greasy pole. So you climb by maneuvering your body in a manner, and you reach on top, and then in a pyramid sort of fashion, more joined like that. That display was also, and it was sub-zero, I think, it's about -10 or 15, and they are absolutely naked. So what I mean is that a cultural sort of exchange was also there, besides the military parade and things like that.
Because there were so many different cultures there.
Yes,
So many different
from
cultures.
rest of the countries were
Yes.
there. So it was very interesting.
Have you been back to Korea?
Yes, I went there in 2002.
For the first time?
Yeah, no, 2002, yes, only once. I went once.
That was during World Cup.
During the war, Seoul was absolutely, there was nothing. There was nothing standing in the capital. And one was really surprised to see in 2002 the development which had taken place. I think its credit goes to the South Korean, or Korean as a whole, I would say. That the sense of discipline, the sense of dedication, and also perhaps motivation through their education, through their parents, through their teachers, through the general society, that they have been able to achieve wonders.
I think Koreans have a sense of, strong sense of duty, and we are very grateful people, and I believe that we recognize that so many foreigners came to Korea to defend our freedom, and that we owe it to all those who served to really rise above, rise from the ashes of war to become successful and prosper, and I, although I'm Korean American, I'm very proud when I hear that the Korean government really treat the veterans with the utmost respect and gratitude.
We've been receiving signed by the president of South Korea messages of this gratitude and also this system of, and it is maintaining the link with the next generation and the next generation. Already the grandchildren are, they go on this kind of program where they are taught, they mingle with people from all the countries. And also I think they have even offered now scholarships.
Yes.
whereby you can opt to take up a job even there after to learn Korean language, and yes, all these facilities are being given. And we are really surprised that why even China is 1949, 50, was much behind India in its GDP, and even throughout Mao Zedong's reign, it's only the Ping or somebody, when he became president, I think he became president after Mao Zedong, that he brought the technical know-how. Firstly, they were so proud that they disconnected. They thought that the Soviets were too overpowering and neutralizing their character, and so they gave that up. And then they had all the technology made up with the Americas, and see what they have achieved. They are a superpower now. And so is South Korea. They are known as 5 tigers of Southeast in development, in technology, in all sphere of activity. I wish that we in India could also somehow become a little more disciplined, if nothing, because through discipline we can achieve. It also moderates your character, your integrity. But in spite of our teachings, which are really civilizational, somehow I shouldn't be saying, but somehow the leaders, the political leaders and the bureaucrats have affected the development side. But it is improving. It's improving, yes, and there is a hope.
Yes, and I have so many Indian American friends, and they're the diaspora. They're very, very, very prosperous, and they'll bring back that kind of knowledge, and because that's what Chinese.
Where are you staying in? Stay USA.
Washington D.C.
Washington D.C.
Yes, and there's an Indian American congressman. I worked in Congress for a long time, and yes, I think all over the world, with many of the diaspora bringing back the knowledge and just the sense of, I guess, more discipline, like you said, because when you go abroad and you're not in your home country, you have to work as harder, and that's why I feel like I've achieved the American dream, because, for my parents who sacrificed their life to come to America for, us, we think we gotta succeed, right? I think that's the same analogy of the Korean people, like the parents all over the world, the veterans came and sacrificed, so the Korean people think, okay, for them, to honor them, the people and the country, they have to succeed. And so I hope that, I'm very glad you got to see modern Korea with the tall skyscrapers. Yes, and everybody says there was only one bridge over Han River, now there's 16 bridges, and there's Samsung, there's Hyundai, there's all over the world. And I hope when you see that you feel very proud that you were part of that making.
Yes.
I really hope so. And that's why I wanted to come, and I wanted to just, I know you know and you are proud, but it's also nice to hear it again, to say thank you again.
Tremendous.
So I do want to say thank you. Oh, in the Korean custom, like in New Year or when you pay respect to the elder, we bow. That's the proper way of saying thank you. So I would like to actually do that because I tried, this is not sorry, but I tried to wear something a little bit kind of Indian to pay respect for you. So I'm gonna do that because that's what we do, and I will say thank you the proper way that I was taught to do.